Thank you for coming on the online real estate training video number 8. Today we're going to talk about lease options, option contracts, and foreclosures, presented by Richard Old. That's me. Let's talk about lease options. First-time home buyers usually have a challenge buying property because they don't have any money down. Well, we can fix that if we're selling a property to one of them. This program will easily take care of it. Basically, the monthly rent, or usually just a portion of the rent, goes toward the down payment sometime in the future. With a lease option contract, you might have a monthly payment to you. You would take $900, let's say, and use $100 down for the payment. And this might be a down payment being used, let's say, in 3 years. Now, the price that you set for the house is set. It could be set for any time, any period, any time you want, but usually it's set at today's price. 3 years from now, they're going to have $3,600 that they can put down on the house. They'll be getting a good buy on the house because they're getting it from a price that was 3 years ago. And they will have to come up with the rest of the money, though. Let's say in this case it was $100,000, and they'd have to come up with $96,400 at a bank, which shouldn't be a problem with a down payment and good credit. During that 3 years, they're supposed to work on their credit also and see if they can't come up with some of their own down payment. That $100,000 house might be worth $108,000 by now, so they're not buying a full 96% on that loan. They actually are buying less on that loan. If you're selling, then the buyer gets today's pricing in 3 years, and that's a good thing. If you're buying, then you get today's pricing in 3 years, and that's a good thing. And it doesn't have to be 3 years. It could be a year and a half, 2 years. You pretty much set the time frame as to when you actually think they'll be able to get the money. Perhaps they're going to get a loan. Maybe they know they're going to get an inheritance. We're not quite sure why all these are going to happen, but the lease option takes care of a myriad of problems. The contract itself is just a standard rental agreement, and it has length of lease, how many months, the rent, the deposit, the rights of the parties, but it also has an option portion of the contract. It allows the buyer to buy the property at any time. They don't have to wait the full 3 years. They could do it in 2 months if they happen to get their money. Usually the price is fixed at today's fair market value, but you can make it at any time. Obviously, if you're buying it, you want it at today's rate. If you're selling it, maybe you'd like to get a little bit more for it. If you're buying, include the and or assigns after your name. Don't forget that. I know I've mentioned that more than once. Important though. And make sure you record the options at the courthouse. Therefore, if you're buying the property, they can't sell it out from underneath you because you have a contract to buy it, and they can't sell it without doing something about your contract. Okay, now we're going to talk about foreclosures. Why invest in foreclosures? Well, probably because there's so many. Right now, there's just a tremendous amount of them. It's a fact of life. There's always going to be foreclosures. Right now, probably because of the fact that unemployment is so high, foreclosures are also very high. But it doesn't matter. Even 10 years from now, there'll still be foreclosures, and they're all worth looking at. Because there's so many, you can buy them at a steep discount. And there's always a steady inventory no matter what. There always has been and always will be. The public has a minimum of information available to them, and the banks absolutely don't want the property back. Every time they get a property back, that means someone at the bank did something wrong. They loaned money to someone who didn't pay it back. And a good bank will do everything they can not to take that property back, which gives you a lot of motivation. It makes it very much easier to get processed for a loan, They'd rather have you have a loan than the person who's defaulted on the loan. So it makes it a lot easier to get that particular property. You need to understand why the property is in foreclosure. The owner may just have a temporary short cash problem. All right, maybe you could help them out with that cash shortage, be able to get some money back from them for doing it, and then they have the house and you have a good deal of interest on your money or whatever you've got set up for it. Or the owner may be financially devastated, just wants to dump the property, hopefully before their credit is destroyed. With any luck, you can find the foreclosure before it's gone into the foreclosure process. Can't tell you how many times people have come to me late in the day saying, "Oh, I've got a foreclosed property. Is there any way that you can help me out?" "Oh, what are the details?" "Well, it's going on the courthouse steps tomorrow at noon." That doesn't give you a whole lot of time to work on a situation, so you need to get these at least a little early. Plus, in some states, they have another problem, and that is they have a statutory redemption, which gives the owner, that was the owner, a certain period of time to buy the property back after the foreclosure sale. And if you buy that property and it says they've got 6 months to come back and buy it, well, how are you going to do anything to it? Anything permanently you do to that property, they're going to own. And how are you going to sell it? You're going to have to go to them and get something assigning their rights away. And it's all quite a bit more difficult. Not impossible. People that specialize in that area on those states do very, very well because they know the rules and regulations. What about some sources to find foreclosures? Well, the classifieds, the newspaper. You got legal newspapers. Quite often, they'll all be there. You've got attorneys you could talk to. You can go and find signs that say "for sale by owner." Sometimes they're going to go into foreclosure. Realtors could help you out. Auction companies, but if you go to an auction, don't buy anything. It's the type of thing where you really need to know an awful lot before you start buying at auctions. So if you're just starting out, good place to go, meet people. Don't bother them while the auction's going on, but before and after, a good place to meet people. And then you got the bank REO department. REO stands for real estate owned. That's all it stands for. But we know it means that the banks own that real estate. Then we have the marshal's office. Be careful about buying those properties. Some of the people that the marshals have taken the property away from are somewhat unsavory, and they may not feel like you own the property after you've bought it. So just be a little careful there. You might want to have a land trust, actually own the property instead of you. You got listing services, IRS auctions, bankruptcies, probate court. You could advertise and go look yourself. You can go to the courthouse and look for new cases or the for sale file. Now, I don't want this to scare you, but there's a dozen different ways to foreclose on a property, and it's different in different states and different portions of different states. And I'm just going to mention them here, but I don't want you to write it down or memorize it because it's just a foreclosure. Find out how foreclosures are done in your area and do it that way. But there's mortgage lien and judicial, there's mortgage lien and power of sale, and trust deed lien and power of sale, and trust mortgage title and power of sale, mortgage intermediate and judicial, and trust deed intermediate and power of sale. I think you're getting the point. It's a little silly to come up with all these different names. Why can't they just say it's a foreclosure? So you got the mortgage intermediate and power of sale, mortgage intermediate strict foreclosure. You got the trust deed lien judicial and the mortgage title judicial, and security deed and power of sale and the mortgage title. It just goes on and on. Just keep in mind, it's a good idea to understand the specifications in your state and in your area, because if you don't know it, you've got to find it if you're going to work with foreclosures. Probably not the easiest thing to start with first, but if you feel like it's something that you want to get involved with, by all means, they're easy to find.